Welcome to the Roundtable Consult. I'm your host, Dr. Mark Williams, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, attorney Sonia Madison. How you doing, Sonia?
I'm doing. This weather is something. I'm not ready for the time to jump forward. But I need my sleep. So this
Jump
daylight
for
saving.
oh, spring forward. Is that
Yeah.
this weekend? That's not this weekend. You
I
still
thought it
got a
was
little while
Sunday.
before. This Sunday?
Yeah, well, at least that's what my phone says. And if my phone says it, I trust that more than anything.
I thought that didn't occur until like the end of March. Did they change the time for that now or what?
with Trump, nothing's the norm anymore.
He is changing times and laws. That's what the Bible says. He'll seek to change times and laws. So yeah, that's oh well. I don't know. They were talking about introducing legislation in Tennessee, I think, to get rid of daylight savings time. I thought they would probably try to do that nationally, trying to get rid of it, but
I mean, that would
um
make more sense. I mean, I'm sorry. I know you Nashville people already start work an hour after everyone else, but nonetheless, you can't change how completely how time works. But
see, some people would say that we finish work an hour after everyone else. And so I mean that's just a matter of perspective right there. That's all I'm saying.
but I was also thinking, does it legislators in Tennessee have more important pressing issues like the almost immediate termination of Department of Education? Should we be worried about?
Nah, nah. We don't need to. What does the Department of Education do anyway? I mean, that's not that important, is it? Or is
Well,
it?
I don't want people
We're
thinking.
gonna FAFO,
I
huh?
don't want people thinking that they don't do anything. I mean, they do manage federal funding, and interesting enough, because I was thinking about all this stuff that Trump is trying to roll back, and you really a lot of this stuff was implemented obviously during Cold War, Great Depression, but some of this stuff, particularly Department of Labor, was integration. I mean, one of the reasons why they formulated this because they wanted to make sure these schools were not using federal funding to go against laws, to go against integration. And so when you start saying, all right, well, you won't receive federal funding unless you do this and this and this, then it forced some of these states to start acting right. And so if you remove the Department of Education, you're also removing to a lot of degrees some of the schools' accountability for applicable federal laws. So like your lips are moving, but I don't hear sound. Is I don't know.
Oh, really?
Oh, there you go. I hear it now. What were you saying?
Yeah. If you eliminate the entire department, it's all a moot point then, isn't it? Because the department's not
We're
sending
going
money
back
to the
to
schools anyway.
we're gonna go back to a lot of segregation, a lot of incidents where again people's rights aren't protected, and I know that that's to some degree what they want to do. Because the same with Social Security, I mean, and the same with healthcare to some degree. I was listening to NPR and they did this whole history on healthcare, and obviously they a lot of doctors and even I think the AMA was very much against it for I'm sure reasons that you can better articulate than I can. But it didn't become until employers started using it as the benefits, and then it became realizing like, hey, no, we everyone kind of needs this. How are we going to regulate it? I know to some degree people don't like government intervention, but to some degree, if we realize that we're in a capitalist society and people are going to be selfish, which is part of our topic today, how we can show a little bit more gratitude versus entitlement, we may not need some of this stuff, but the reality is that's not going to happen, and so we need it.
Well,
We
I mean, eventually what will wind up happening is that if your school teaches or celebrates or mentions Black History Month, then your school will not be able to get funding. How do I know that? You can read the tea leaves and you can find out the Department of Defense has this past week started targeting, I think, 26,000 pictures that they're trying to remove because they said that it promotes DEI. One of the pictures was a lady, I think it might have been a black lady, standing in front of an airplane. That promotes DEI, DEI for them. Another um, um, picture that was flagged for removal was a photo of an airplane and the name of the airplane was named after a person named Enola Gay. The name was Enola Gay, so they had Enola Gay written on the airplane, and they were flagging that to remove just because it said gay, even though it was a person's last name. Apparently, if you get enlisted into the into the military, your last name happens to be Gay, then you're going to be banned. Or if you're heard playing Marvin Gaye songs, maybe you'll be removed as well. So, I mean, some of it is just getting kind of ridiculous. The notion of removing images that reflect important moments in our history as a country is ludicrous to me. And it just really, I think, exposes the vile hatred that they have for anything diverse and the presence or the acknowledgement that Black people might have done something helpful for this country. That part of history is being systematically erased.
Well, I did want to add, they've already eliminated a lot of research, and we've had some Black educators on, and educators in general, who have made it very clear sometimes how you teach certain students, whether that's along racial lines or whether that's along socioeconomic lines, etc., is often different. And they were Department of Education, again, federal, was using a lot of some of this funding to do more delving into that, so they can again improve teaching methods. But again, we removed that department, and we are essentially telling states, hey, if it's important to you, figure it out. If it's not, and we know the states how they're going to feel. And I did look somewhere. I think for the most part, 80s, maybe 86% of funding for schools are come from the states, and so the
Yeah,
remainder is federal funding. And
yeah,
so
eight
in
about eight
that,
percent is federal. Yeah.
and so in that, again, if teachers, if you guys complain about how much pay you get, you know it's going to be reduced if that funding is removed. If you complain about your resources, you know that's going to be reduced if that funding is removed. And I know that to some degree, a lot of educators are not advocates for the removal of the Department of Education, but then I'm telling to the voters, hey, you guys, I know some of you thinking I'm gonna just send my kid to private school, but again, on you got to look beyond yourself. If most of the children, or even if a fraction of the children are behind, the wealth gap continues to increase, and inflation will continue. Economic
Mhm.
downturns will continue. Crime will continue. I mean, you know.
Not just continue, but even expand.
Yeah.
Here's my thought is this. Well, first of all, the 8% that goes to the schools, the vast majority of that 8% is not necessarily paying teacher salaries or even developing curriculum or anything like that. Those funds come from the state. That 8% that comes from the federal government are pretty much directed toward the most vulnerable students. And so the SNAP programs that feed students, poor students who may not necessarily have a meal. That might be their only meal they get for the day is in school. And then some of it goes toward the programs for dealing with children with special needs as well. So the vast majority of the federal funds
Well, I
goes
want to make a
toward that.
correction here, at least here in Georgia, because that's going to be based on the state. States will defeat, but here in Georgia, they were able to increase salaries using federal funding. So it
Mm,
depends on the state. Depends on the state.
yeah. Yeah, so well, I mean, yeah, they might increase. Now, granted, you shift funds from one thing to another thing,
Well,
and you
that's
still
why I
say that
say you
these
lose that
federal funds
building.
might be earmarked for this purpose, but yeah, there's still only one budget. And so when the money is not there, if you decide that you're going to keep those programs, the money's going to have to come from someplace else other than the federal government. And so this poses a problem. And the reality is that the vast majority of the people who benefit from some of these programs are going to be those who are in the lower social
We
economic
all
classes.
benefit. That's what I want to make sure it's clear. We all benefit for these programs, some
Yeah,
more
but they don't see
indirectly.
it directly. I mean,
Because
you're
they
going
don't see it,
down.
doesn't mean we don't let them know, hey, we all benefit from having
Yeah,
a more productive and educated society. We all benefit.
we
Now,
all benefit from diversity, equity, and inclusion
yes,
too.
and
But
I'm not going to
that's
let you,
not an argument they're ready to hear.
I'm not going to let your lack of seeing it means that it's not true. I mean, because again, I think a lot of times people say the myth long enough until it becomes true. No, no, no. It's still the myth. We
Yeah.
all do benefit, but I understand some people, they want that direct benefit. And so if they don't get that direct benefit, they don't care.
So you are repeating now the common fallacy or the mistake of the Democratic Party right now. They expect people to, excuse me, think or look more broadly than people are willing to do. We are in a soundbite headline generation. And if you're not capturing people with the soundbite or with the headline, and you're expecting them to extrapolate a little bit further down the road, your message is being lost. I was watching Smirkanish earlier this morning on CNN. He had a poll. He said, what does the Democrats really need most help with? Do they need help with the vision, the message, or the leadership? And I think the issue is the messaging. It's that Donald Trump really knows how to appeal to the base emotions of the American people. And it takes a lot more effort to appeal to their higher ideals. And Democrats always want to appeal to the higher ideals of humanity. And humanity in America is not trying to hear any higher ideals. They want the base. If it's not directly impacting me, I don't give a flying flip. And that's exactly where a lot of them are going at this
But we
point,
do have to
especially
remember,
when economic times get worse.
we do have to remember that Trump lost and Biden, and so to some degree, there's a constant flip flop when it comes to leadership. And so, I mean, I don't want to completely say that, hey, Trump is not able to be rejected because, again, Joe Biden did win. And to some degree, he won after a period of COVID in which we saw so many civil rights things happen. We saw so many, again, healthcare things happening. And so to some degree, he did use that humanity to win that election. I don't disagree with what you're saying. I'm just saying there's so many elements that
Yeah.
comes with, okay, people are so focused on, hey, I am not doing this, I don't feel this right now, so maybe this doesn't work, let's try something new. And to your point, to me, he did really get on people's fears. Fear of immigration, fear of diversity, fear of whatever. I do think he hones in on that. But I also think that, again, like when he lost after his first term, it was because people were also like, hey, I want something new. That clearly didn't work. Let's see if we can, if Joe Biden will do something better. The problem also is people don't give time. People don't give time, because even I'm sure you listened to, which I mean I didn't listen to it, but I'm sure you did, Trump's congressional speech. And again, when he campaigned, day one, I'm going to reduce the price of eggs. When he got in that speech, oh well, first of all, let me blame Biden for the price of eggs.
Mhm.
And then, oh, it's going to take some time. We're going to feel some heartache. Where was this? You surely knew not to say this during your campaign, but you say this now. And again, I think some people are probably going to be like, we'll give them time, but you're not going to get the full 4 years. I assure you, if something doesn't change within the next couple of years, it'll probably be another flip of, okay, this didn't work, we need to go back and see.
No, it won't. It won't, because Donald has already assured us that that would be the last time we'd have to vote. And he's
But the
making sure.
Republican Party then has to add, do we want JD Vance or do we
No,
want
no, we're not going to
somebody?
have another election afterwards.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We're done.
We don't
It's a
have
complete
no more
monarchy at
elections.
this
It's over. It's over.
point.
Don't tell me what I need to know. Tell me what I want to hear. And that's where we are as a country. Don't tell me what I need to know. Tell me what I want to hear. And even if it is a lie, at least, tell me the lie makes me feel good about it. And, we'll deal with the consequences of it later. And that's unfortunately where we are. I don't know. How do you then appeal to people's higher ideals? How do you get a nation to say, hey, we have to have a greater focus. We have to have a more magnanimous uh, passion, or I don't even know the word I'm trying to find out, but I don't even know how to say it, let alone how to get other people to come alongside it.
I mean, I do think we have to acknowledge
Aspiration, that's what it is, a
yeah,
higher aspiration.
I do think you have to meet a need first. And it's kind of like the whole generational poverty. When you have a lot of kids who aren't able to eat, or aren't able to meet some of their basic needs, it's going to be hard to educate them to see the importance of math when they are starving. And I don't doubt the same is true when you're talking about governing politics. Again, we're also talking about the people who actually do vote, because to some degree, you also got to convince people that voting is important, that it will have some type of, impact on who gets in office. But you do have to meet the need first. But like you said, sometimes people don't even understand, hey, local elections are really where you need to go to meet your need. Federal elections, yeah, again, not that they can't touch, they do touch, but it is much harder for them to touch you directly than those local elections.
But when you're willing to withhold federal dollars, even against the expression of Congress, then you are impacting local even more than you should be from a federal standpoint. And you unfortunately have to be willing to break the rules in order to get something done in
No, no,
Congress.
no, don't advocate for what Trump is doing right now.
That's
Laying off
that's
what 40 to 70,000 workers. I mean,
here's the
he's going to have an impact, but it is not going to be the impact that you want.
but he gets to come out and say nobody has reduced government spending as much as I have. And so the
We
question
shall see,
is what's the
because I don't.
consequence of it?
Again, he's asking people to come back, so we shall. We shall see.
But it
Um,
still counts as a cut. It counts as a cut. Even if we put it back together, it still got cut in the first place.
and I don't doubt that. Again, our deficit is going to continue to increase, because the reality is you can cut someone's position, but that need is still there. So you're either going to fill it through a contract, or again, it's going to come out on a higher tax in on your local level. I mean, what did you think of? Because I think that was one of the things he said in his speech. He took complete credit for the border security and said, "Hey, we don't need Congress to pass any immigration law. All we needed was a president to do what he's doing." I mean, what were your thoughts here?
I mean, it's the whole thing, do as I say, not as I do type thing. When Obama started legislating through executive order, they had a conniption about it. And then Donald Trump gets in there, he does even more, and they're like, okay, well, it's okay. And then Joe Biden gets in there, I can't believe he's going in there and undoing everything that Donald Trump has done in the first place. Then Donald Trump gets in there and even goes even further. Yeah, it's okay to legislate by executive order. We don't need Congress. Congress just stays there and let Donald Trump handle it all.
I can believe
It's
you are to promoting this message. First of all, every president has had executive orders. I don't want you to think it started with Obama.
right.
But it's one thing to say, okay, we will ensure that there's, at least for right now, a safety net for DACA workers, or DACA immigrants. It's another to just say, you know what, I'm going to just throw out tariffs, or I'm going to cut a budget. Okay, that is, you're not responsible for the purse. And Supreme Court, thank you. Supreme Court did say you need to release that federal funding. Now, in all fairness, they said, hey, go back lower level. You have to determine which one has already been earmarked for release, and which hasn't. So they didn't completely say now release the funds. But nonetheless, they did make it clear, President, you are not the purse. This is
Mhm. Yeah. Somebody said, did anybody fact check? One of our viewers said, did anybody fact check that speech? Man, people gonna quit fact checking altogether
I
when
was
he
gonna
starts
say
talking.
nothing was true at this point.
Because
They want true check.
right. It'd be a lot faster to do that one. Oh, yep, he had some things he said was true. The rest of it counted as all false. But I don't know. I think maybe we should be grateful for the little things that he's done. Like if you look at Doge, one of the things that they were talking about, all the multiple 32,000 or something like that licenses, software licenses or something like that that were left unchecked. We got all these software licenses that you go through and they're still pending. There were $4 million or 4 million credit cards that are issued to the workers. He throws all this information out, but there are certain nuanced things that are behind it that nobody ever really pays attention to. So what about, because I'm looking at my own company, I've got 10 employees, I got about 8 credit cards. That doesn't mean that we use all the credit cards, and it doesn't mean that those credit cards are not being paid off on a monthly basis. One of them isn't, but it doesn't mean that, it's being used wastefully. It doesn't imply that fraud is. I mean, it does imply if you say that they got this many credit cards, it does imply that there can be some fraud and or at least some potential for fraud and abuse, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is. Congress has already enacted a law back in 2012 that required certain department heads to audit the use of credit card spending and make sure that it's all appropriate. But these details are conveniently left out when you just put something sensational out to say there are 4 million, there are only 2.4 million employees, but 4 million credit cards. What sense does that make? That tells you that some fraud is going on. That's the argument they're making. It's a lot easier to make that argument
But so
than
it's definitely
to have
easier
to
to
go
make
and
an
prove.
argument that's not true. I mean, because again, I don't believe anything that comes out of their mouth. Just like when they said, "Oh, we removed funding for condoms," that was not true. Or they said, "Oh, we removed all this money from Social Security being given to dead people." Again, not true. So I mean, I'm like, yeah, it's easier to convince people of lies. So I don't even know if even what you're saying is the eliminations of licenses. I'm just not even sure if that is true. but you try to make it sound convincing enough. Because I was reading somewhere, I think it was on CNN or somewhere where they were looking at the reporting of what they were posting on Doge. And they're talking about billions have already been saved, but yet they have not accounted for this quote unquote billions. So I mean, I just can't believe any of the numbers that come out of their mouth.
Well, one of our viewers just posted. They said they had a combined applause time of 25 minutes. That's a lot of applause. So it's that. I mean,
I mean,
hey,
hey, we have a whole bunch of loyalists in the room. That's all.
they were quite grateful. They were quite grateful for everything that Donald Trump was doing.
What did you think of
So
Al Green and not only the censure, but the Democrats not walking out with him?
you asked what I thought of it.
Yeah, your thoughts.
It's standard for um, decorum during a State of the Union
Is
address now.
is it
It
standard?
it's become standard. It's become standard.
I guess ever since someone yelled "You lie" at Obama, it's now standard at someone. But again,
I mean, we got
the censure
Lauren
isn't standard.
Lauren Boebert and what's your representative
Martin
down
Taylor
there?
Greene,
Green,
yeah.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, in fact, if you look at some of the clips from when Biden was doing his State of the Union address, I mean, they literally booed him, and the entire Republican Party actually were quite disruptive. And I'm a little sickened by the feigned disdain that these people on the right are having about Democrats not applauding when Donald Trump exploits this little kid who had cancer and says, "I'm going to deputize you and make you part of the Secret Service," all the while
Cutting cancer research.
cutting cancer research dollars. Right. So yeah, we should applaud that for the cameras. But the reality is that we're applauding if we do that, then we're also applauding some of the other atrocities that you're committing.
Well, I don't think that the censure was appropriate. And for you guys, I mean, censure is just kind of like a final warning in employment. I mean, it's just this house not acknowledging this is wrong or this is against our rules. But I don't want you to think it means he can't vote or anything like that. It's but nonetheless, that was precedented. And again, I'm with you. Okay, quit clutching your pearls, Republicans, because this is what you guys have done since Obama's inauguration. But also, I was disappointed though that the Democrats didn't walk out with them. And I understand that to some degree, yeah, like you said earlier, they're trying to come off a little bit more, I guess, humble or a little bit more, I don't even know what the word is, diplomatic or whatever. But I'm just like, the rules have changed.
Respectful of our institutions, you know.
When the person that is holding the institution is not being respectful, to me, it goes back to the civil rights movement. You can argue, oh, if a restaurant owner does not want you there, that's their prerogative. You need to be respectful. but I'm still grateful for the sit-ins. I mean, sometimes you do need civil disobedience. Sometimes you do need the civil discord to make change. As much as you can argue about MLK and Malcolm X, you needed both of them to make the change. And so I just wish that the Democrats would have walked out with them. I was also disheartened to hear that 10 Democrats voted for the censure. I'm like, are you serious? Are you serious? Like, where
Well,
is
I mean, wrong is wrong. If it violates the rules of decorum, then you have to
but it's
stand
on the
by
where's
on a
the rules of
principle.
decorum? Because again, it at some point, I tell my clients all the time, you can have a policy, but if you are not practicing that policy, then it's no longer a policy. And
It's
we've
still a
talked
policy.
about no, it's not. No, it's not. And even because even the courts will say, well, if you're not doing this, it's not really a policy. And so, that's what I'm saying. Like we've
They're
talked about
doing it. It's just a couple of
no, they're
people
not.
have
We talked
violated.
about Obama.
Only a few
We've
people
talked
have.
about Marjorie Taylor Greene. We talked about Lauren Barber. We talked about all
Three
these that
people
have. But again, you even said the entire
out of
Republicans booed him.
535.
No, you said the entire Republicans were booing Joe Biden, not just Marjorie Taylor Greene. And so again, don't try to feign now we've got this policy that you have not been following it.
That policy is still a policy.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, you can try to justify it however you want to
there's no
justify it, though.
justifying. I'm just telling you how it works, even in practice. You can because again, if you have a policy, you're not practicing that policy. You have taken away the effect of the policy.
Okay. Well, talk to us about Zelensky and how JD Vance thought he should have been a bit more grateful.
Well, I kind of would rather a little bit talk about the Gene Hackman situation because I kind of found this a little odd and I wanted to maybe even get your thoughts a little bit on the kind of the medical side and the honoring of your mother and father because that's what got me on this topic. So Gene Hackman and his wife passed away, and it looks like it's from the medical examiner. They're saying she died first from hantavirus, which I'm not really sure what that is. But then he later died of heart disease. And I think in their reporting, they talked about how he had Alzheimer's and how much she was trying to present a healthy lifestyle to protect him. And so a lot of people probably didn't see that he was suffering from this disease. But after she died, it's at least predicted, because none of us was there, but after she died, it's predicted that he was then left alone. And for at least 2 weeks, no one, even no family member kind of came and checked on him or checked on either of them. And so then when it was discovered, they were both unfortunately deceased. And he might have, I mean, they say he died of heart disease, but I'd imagine if your caretaker is gone, then again, there's no one there to take care of you. And it just raised this question of how do we show gratitude to people that not only have taken care of us, but also to people that have, reached a certain age in which they need help. And sometimes gratitude can just be a humanitarian thing. And so yeah, that's how I kind of wanted to get into this topic and whether even with their family, should that be something that we are supposed to do, show gratitude, or is that just an elective and we applaud you if you do it, but if you don't do it, we don't make it a requirement.
Well, I think sometimes, so some people will say expressing gratitude is actually providing providing caring for people and show your gratefulness for how you care for them after all the years that they care for you. I don't know if Gene Hackman had children or what his relationship was with those children. But I
But
mean, we
he had
were clear,
family. So, but
huh?
he had family. We know
He
he
had
had.
family. And it very well may have distanced himself from the family too, especially when you start having dealing with Alzheimer's, people start acting totally different than they did before. And it becomes challenging for not so close family members and even sometimes close family members to maintain their dignity and their respect for you during that time.
Well, I don't know if then you're saying that because of this disease, then they're justified in distancing themselves. Or if you're saying, well, they may not have known it. And so instead of being a little selfless, they take it personal on themselves. Because I guess I'm also saying the point of gratitude is saying, hey, I'm thankful that you helped me even when you didn't have to. As well as sometimes the point of gratitude could be saying, I am showing some humanity to you by virtue of the fact that whether we are Christians or whether there's just this understanding that, hey, you deserve to be treated with some level of niceness. I mean, again, we go back to the decorum that you're saying that was the policy. If your argument is, well, Al Green should not have shat out just because by virtue of the office or by virtue of what was going on during that time, then should we, again, by virtue of someone getting older or by virtue of someone experiencing some hardship, we should show some gratitude or some empathy. So that's kind of at least where I'm going with this. And I do think to some degree, especially as Christians, we should show a little bit more gratitude, show some humanity. While I was listening to a podcast with CC Winans, and her guests talked about how, I don't know, we talk about this oftentimes on the show, people see God through you. And if they see this light in you, then they're more likely to, again, accept God or know more about God. But if we as Christians are walking around with a level of meanness or a level of, selfishness, then people are definitely not going to see God through that, but we can't then anticipate or expect that, God is even able to show himself through us.
But do you think a level, can you be grateful and still mean? Because
You
I
tell
hear
me.
you sort of,
I don't,
huh?
because to me, by being mean, I feel like you're being selfish.
Yeah. And so I'm not sure that I would look at selfishness and gratitude as opposites necessarily, because I think you can still be grateful and selfish.
So that your gratitude is limited to what someone has done for you. And I'm saying the gratitude even should be extend beyond what someone has done for you. Say someone hasn't done anything for you, but there's still a level of gratitude by virtue of just, hey, I appreciate your being. I appreciate, as even as sinners trying to navigate this world in the best way that we can, in the most pleasing way of God. I mean, to some degree, I think God is telling us, hey, listen, I died for you without you doing anything for me. So even show gratitude to me by being graceful to my people. And so that, and I don't, to me, I don't think you can put selfish and gratitude in the same word. I mean, I don't know, because again, it's like if you're only grateful because of what someone's done for you, then that to me is just like repaying a debt. It's not, being grateful, just being grateful. Did
What was that?
you just stop listening? Uh,
Well,
but
I am on call. I am on call, so
I feel
occasionally
like
I
you're.
have to.
Oh no, I did not. But I feel like
Yeah,
you're when
that's in
you're.
the chat message right there. You missed that part.
Oh my bad. Yeah, yeah. Here I
Yeah,
was
but
thinking the round table has your undivided attention.
absolutely. But the round table is not paying me right now. I'm being paid to be on call. It's the scrubs.
But no, I just feel like, I mean, again, I guess my whole thing is back to being Christians. I feel like we show grateful to God by being grateful to people, like because He died for us without us doing anything. But if we only show gratitude to people that are gracious to us, then it's kind of a tit for tat. We're just repaying a debt. We're not doing anything selflessly.
I'm still just not feeling your analogies. How
Well,
you
that's
try to
fine, but
make
then express how
one
you
thing.
feel, we should show gratitude, assuming you think we should show it at all.
I think right now Donald Trump, for example, is very grateful for every vote that he got. I think he's extremely grateful for it, but he doesn't show any magnanimity. He doesn't show any compassion or any type of mercy, or may not even express the gratitude, but yet he still is grateful for having had that, having been placed in this position. He might totally turn on you and screw you as he's doing to a lot of his supporters. But it doesn't mean that he's not grateful
Well,
for
how are
them. It
you
just
seeing the
means that he's
gratefulness?
incredibly selfish. He's
Well,
selfish
how are
and
you
grateful.
seeing the gratefulness then? Because to me, you're just trying to read his mind. Because if you're saying he's not expressing gratitude, then how do you know he's grateful?
Why would he not be grateful? He's given something that you wanted. So he's ungrateful that he's got in office. He's
Hey,
ungrateful
a
that
lot of
he's
people
now
say he did not
protected
expect to
from.
win the first time. A lot
He's
of people say he was
ungrateful for. He can't
shocked.
possibly be ungrateful for having now evaded prosecutions. He is incredibly grateful, I guarantee you for that. But the question, maybe say thankful.
I was
Maybe
gonna say,
grateful
I
and
don't think you
thankful
can
are different
guarantee
things, but
something if
I don't
I'm
know.
asking you, how did he show his gratitude? And you cannot provide any examples of him showing gratitude.
He shows gratitude by showing up every day.
Oh, really? That's what it
Yes.
is?
Yes. Absolutely. You
I
elected me to be the
disagree with that.
president
We
of the
wake up
United
every morning.
States.
That doesn't mean we just show gratitude by virtue of me waking up in the morning.
There are a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump who love the fact that every day you're going to catch him talking to the media and saying, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what you elected me to do. This is what I'm doing. And they view that as gratitude.
Okay, but
You
we're
might not
talking
view it
about
as
Trump
gratitude. I might
showing
not.
gratitude. You're saying his people are grateful for him showing up, but I'm
No,
not hearing you say he shows gratitude. Trump
I'm
has been
saying
in
that
front of the camera for years.
I'm saying that
This
his
was not going to
people
start by this election.
I'm saying that his people will view that as gratitude. If you are grateful for us putting you into this position, you do the things that we
But you're
wanted you
not
to do.
articulating how he shows gratitude, and that's what I'm.
That's it by showing
No,
up.
it's
You're
not.
not hearing what I'm saying
No. You're
because you're not
saying
because you disagree
he.
with what I'm
No,
saying is what you're
I'm.
saying.
Let me repeat what you said. You said they are grateful for him showing up.
No, that's not what I said. I
Said,
said he
well,
shows gratitude.
no, no,
He
no,
shows
no,
gratitude.
no, because you
You
also said
misunderstood me. Let me
earlier.
clarify what I meant. Let me clarify what I meant. I said you show gratitude by showing up every day when you to do the job that people elected you to do. And when he shows up and he talks to the media every week, every morning, every day, several times a day, his supporters view that as gratitude. And they are grateful themselves that he does it, but I'm sure they view that as his gratitude and his reciprocation for what they did for him. And
Then
that
you're
is
right.
put
I
him in that
disagree.
office.
I disagree that just because you show up at work, that means you're grateful. You could
Yeah.
show up at work because you need a paycheck, and that is exactly why you show up at
And
work.
then
You
you're
can wake
grateful
up
that you
in the
have an
morning.
opportunity. Then you're grateful that you have an opportunity to get one.
No, or you
So
again, you have to earn it. It's not like they're just giving you money for free. You have to do some work. So again, you show up to work because you need a paycheck. But I hear you. You say, "Hey, if I just wake up in the morning, I'm showing gratitude by
I
virtue
didn't
of."
say that. I didn't
That's
say
what
that.
you're
I said show up in the job.
showing up,
I
waking
said he
up,
show up in
whatever.
the job.
Fine.
If
You
you show
show
up
up
on
at
your
the
job,
job, you are showing gratitude. So
if you show up
talk
on
to
your
all these sick
job, it shows
employees.
that you are grateful for having being employed.
Talk to all
If
these
you
sick employees.
disregard anything that you disregard, you show lack of gratitude for it. Let me say it that way. If you show disregard toward it, it proves a lack of gratitude. Showing regard for it also can be viewed as showing gratitude for something. And it's showing up on your job shows regard for it. Therefore, it shows gratitude for having the position. You may hate the position, but the mere fact that you show up says that I'm grateful that I have a job and I know how to keep this job by showing up.
And again, I disagree. I think you show up to because you need money. And so that's why you show up for work. But by
That's
all
why you have a
means,
job.
but by
That's why
all
you have a
means,
job.
if you didn't need the money, you
You
wouldn't
can
show
find
up.
another job. You can find another job.
Or again, if you don't need money, you don't have to show up for work at all.
Right. Exactly.
And so again,
But
that's
when you
why I
need
say
money,
your showing up is tied to again a selfish need for money and not this gratitude. But I hear that you see it differently,
when you
and
need
that's fine.
money, if I need money and somebody has an opportunity for me to get it, I'm going to be grateful for it. If I keep showing up and receiving that money, regardless of what I have to do to get it, if I'm grateful for it, I'm going to keep showing up to get that.
Like I
But
said,
anyway,
we will agree, disagree on that one.
yeah.
But anyways, so from your perspective, showing gratitude is again showing up for work. And so, because again, part of this podcast is talk about how do we show gratitude, and that is how you feel like Trump showed gratitude by being on the mic, showing up for work. Any other examples of gratitude that you want to give to people?
Say, I'm saying, listen, every time my employees show up for work, I think they appreciate the job that they have. And I view that as gratitude. As an employer, as somebody who depends on people showing up for work, I'm grateful that they do show up. And I believe that they're grateful that they have a job, so they show up. Because the minute you stop showing up, then you'll no longer have the thing. When you diminish the thing or disregard the thing that you should be grateful of, you'll soon find yourself separated from that thing. And that's why people show up for their job and their employers view it as gratitude for that job. As long as they're showing up and performing the job, then you say this person is at least grateful for having this opportunity.
Again, you can say
Um,
it 5, 6, 7 different times, but are there other ways that you want to articulate expressions of
you
gratitude?
know,
Because I
I
don't
think
want it limited
I
to.
think people, I think as you and I have just demonstrated right here, people view gratitude for something in very different ways. And so how I say you should express gratitude doesn't necessarily mean that you should express gratitude that way. If I'm the one giving it to you, if I'm the one providing a service or benefit to you, then I think you should take the effort to find out how the expression of gratitude to me is best reflected. As I looked at what happened in the Oval Office this week with Zelensky, uh, the Zelensky had many, many times before said, "Hey, I'm grateful, I'm thankful for X, Y, or Z." But apparently that didn't express the type of gratitude that JD Vance thought he should be expressing. Most of us will look at that, and when he came in and said, "Thank you for this opportunity" at the beginning of the conversation, and had many, many other tweets and everything else about it. But apparently the kind of gratitude that JD Vance wanted to see was bootlicking. And so the question is now, will Zelensky do the bootlicking of Donald Trump that JD Vance and Trump believe that he needs to do? Does that mean that he's not grateful because he hasn't licked the boots? Maybe not. To some people, it probably would mean that. So I think
Well, I would hope that
the
we both agree that
gratitude is in the
saying
eye of the
thank
beholder.
you is an expression of, at least if you equate gratitude with appreciation, and we both know Zelensky has said thank you on multiple times, then I hope we both agree that then he has expressed appreciation for the weapons that were sent to him, for the aid that was sent to him, and even subsequent to that interview, from my understanding, and because I think even President Trump said this at his little congressional speech or campaign speech, whichever one you want to call it, that Zelensky did send a letter and express again another thank you, because like you said, maybe that's not gratitude to them, but did express another thank you. But also from my perspective on that gratitude, there's got to be some level of like sacrifice, and whether that's a sacrifice of a pride, whether that's a sacrifice of time, that whether that does not tie to a benefit that you're receiving. And that's why, again, I don't put it with pay, because you are sacrificing your time for a paycheck, and that to me is not sacrificing your time to express some kind of gratitude. But I don't, again, I obviously I would hope we both don't agree that Zelensky has not expressed any gratitude. I think we both agree he has. We also, at least from my perspective, I don't think
Mhm.
that even
But there are a lot of
Trump
people who
and
don't agree.
but that's why I'm going to pause you. I even think Trump and Vance would agree, if they were being honest, that he has source of gratitude. They just did not like how it was looking in front of this camera. Because again, as Trump says, "Oh, this is going to make for great TV," and quite honestly, Trump didn't even say anything until JD Vance went on this, "Hey, we got to puff our chest," type of aura, and then Trump followed along. But the fact that they scheduled this meeting, the fact that there was to talk about a deal related to minerals. I mean, you don't try to jump into an agreement with someone unless you recognize, hey, there's a mutual respect and mutual appreciation for what either, the information stuff that you have that will be helpful to my citizens, and vice versa. So I don't want people to take some of these antics that these politicians, particularly Trump and JD Vance, to do as really their authentic self. I do think they're playing up a character to meet a base. And I do think that, again, that they would acknowledge Zelensky has expressed appreciation. It just didn't look great in this moment in which they wanted to make it into more than what it was.
Well, there are a lot of people who will say that he was very ungrateful for everything that we've done for him. The mere fact that he didn't wear a suit showed his lack of gratitude. Some people will view that as. There will be people who will say that that people who
But also talk
disrespect.
about whether you agree with that. Because again, there are going to be people that will say that there's life on Mars. But are we going to take the time to give that a platform? There are some people that will say that, hey, racism is dead. Now we're going to take that as an opportunity to give a platform. I mean, I do think you still have to discern what's worth discussing versus just platitudes that are just distractions.
So here's one example. Let me give this example. Some people will after a meal, when my mother would cook all the time. When anytime she would cook, at the end of the meal, I would always say the food was good, Mom. If it was good. And she really appreciated the fact that I said that. But for some people, that would be considered gratitude enough. Other people will say, if you really want to show your gratitude, you get up and wash some dishes afterwards. That's how you show gratitude. Saying thank you doesn't mean anything to me. Get your butt up and start doing something for me. So we talk about love languages. When you say somebody, when you ask somebody to, do they perceive your expression of gratitude? You have to find out, how do you communicate gratitude to a person, just as you have to figure out how do you communicate love to a certain person, because they don't necessarily all, it's not ubiquitous. Some people say thank you. Does that seem very grateful? I'm like, thank you. Yeah, thank you. That doesn't seem very grateful. I can say words a lot of times and it be meaningless. Or I can present all types of actions and say, hey, I've been showing you gratitude all the time for the food that you cook by washing the dishes every time. I think all you have to do, all I really wanted to hear you say was that the food was good. And that to me would have meant all the difference in the world if you had just simply complimented me on the time, the effort, and the skill the love that I put into placing the food. Washing dishes doesn't show it for me, but to other people, washing dishes would show it. And so I think when we start talking about what the face of gratitude is, we have to consult the one who we're trying to express that gratitude to.
Well, then to me, that's kind of like love. I would say do both because to me, just saying I love you and your actions are not, complimenting that, that to me is going to make it meaningless. And so I would hate for someone to again just say thank you and not do the dishes versus hey, they understand saying thank you and doing the dishes is that extra step of not only am I telling you how much I'm grateful, but I'm showing you through some action. And I think a lot of men in particular, but people will use that as a cop out. Well, I said thank you. I said I love you. Okay, well, obviously the words without an action becomes media. I mean, faith without works is dead. You've got to do something more than just say, I believe Jesus exists. He asked us
It's,
to actually walk in that too.
so there's a thing, you run the risk of offering what I call feudal sacrifices. Feudal sacrifices are the ones that cost you something, but they were never requested of you. And therefore, they don't produce the result that you would hope that they would have produced, because the person who received the action didn't see it as a benefit. Why don't they see it as a benefit? Because it wasn't what they requested. So what I'm saying about that is that, yeah, I see a lot of men make this mistake in their marriages. They say, well, I show my wife that I love her by going to work every day and making money and paying the bills and buying and making sure that she has enough money to be able to buy the things that she likes to have and take the vacations that she likes to have. When all along that wife has been asking, all I really need you to do is to be here with me. And right, instead, you're spending 18 hours a day or 16 hours a day at work to provide all these things that I never asked for. That really, yeah, I like them, but they're not as meaningful to me as it would be to have you present at this point. I don't think that there's any harm in one assessing how a person views gratitude, and two, ad- adjusting my expression of gratitude to meet the form of communication that they perceive as gratitude.
Yes,
And
but I
and so
would
that's what
also
Zelensky wound up doing after he left the office. He wound up giving these profuse compliments and everything, and basically kissing the boot to some extent of Donald Trump. Say how great of a leader you are. You watch who was it? The Canada's president or whoever it was, what's his name?
oh Trudeau.
Trudeau.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Trudeau. Yeah, afterwards he was like, we know, even when he was getting ready to rebuff the plans that and say how stupid it was for him to actually put forth these tariffs, he said, we know that you are a very smart person, but this is a very dumb thing that you're doing. So he had to go ahead and coach it in a way that we got to stroke Donald Trump's ego just a little bit in order for him to think that you're grateful in the least. And unfortunately, that's what needs to happen. You have to tell him how great he is, and then he won't believe, that you're grateful for anything
So then
unless you
lie to
fawn
him
over
because
him
that's not
first.
authentic. So then just lie to him. That's not. But I will say I do need to assess. But I would also say you also need to change your result. If your result is to make sure someone is then praising you for actually showing your gratitude, then you're in for a losing battle. But if your result is to just make their life a little easier, I mean, by washing those dishes, that's one less thing they got to do. And that is what you've done. Then let that be your result. Don't, it doesn't have to be tied to someone giving you praise. And I think that's often the problem that again, we even see with Trump. If you want to do good for the American people, then do good for the American people. But if it has to be tied to us lying to you and making you seem like you're this great person, then it's not authentic. It was a selfish thing that you were trying to do for praise.
Uh, yeah, but selfish people can still be grateful though. I do. Can a selfish person?
Again,
Let's poll
don't
our
tie it
listeners.
to
Can a
praise
selfish person be gratitude? Can a selfish person be grateful? And
according
that's
to
it's and so one of our viewers say, Sonia, I hate to say that you're wrong on this issue.
the fact that they said I hate to say it. I know.
I'm not gonna tell you what the rest of it says. He says, because most of the time you are right. He's just trying to, again, that's one of those. We know that you're a very smart person, but this time you're saying some really dumb things.
Well, I mean, hey, I'm not a clone of everyone's ideas. Sometimes we will have to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
But I hate for someone to tie their gratitude to praise. Like, because again, it's more than you're either repaying a debt. It's more of a tit for tat because
Yeah.
you may express gratitude and I either may see it or may not see it. It may take me a time. I may look up and be like, oh, my guest left and the kitchen's clean. I'm so grateful that they did that, but I didn't say anything in the moment. Or again, the fact that I'm sure as a parent, I'm sure you could think of a list of things you've done for your kids and they never say thank you, but nonetheless, you may appreciate that gratitude in the form of being productive members of society or making sure that if you have Alzheimer's, they knock on your door every couple of times a day, just to check on you. Or even as you get older, when you retire, you may not ask for them to throw you a party or to express, oh, congrats. But if they done it, just because that may not be what you wanted, I'm sure you're still grateful that they sacrificed to do it.
Now you're expecting Donald Trump to behave like a Christian, or maybe
Am I?
expecting other
I'm not.
people, not just Donald Trump, but other people, anybody, to behave like a Christian. Luke 14 says, when you give a feast, invite the poor, the maimed, the lame, and the blind, and you will be blessed because they cannot repay you, for you shall be repaid at the resurrection of the just. Now, that's a belief that, it's hard for us to do that. I've had so many friends who are just givers. And this is the problem with being a giver, is that when you're a giver, you just keep giving and giving and giving, and you expect other people to give the same way that you give. And when they don't see you giving back to the same degree that they give, they view it as ungratefulness, of being ungrateful for all the things that they do for you. And so many of them really start, I watch this because it's to some extent it's kind of funny because they can't help but to keep giving up more. And even, they start hating themselves for keep giving when other people still don't reciprocate. And I'm like, you're not doing it for the purpose of reciprocation. And I know you know that you're not doing it for that. But that whole human nature of us starts creeping up to say, I need to stop doing this. And the challenge is that they can't because it's in their nature to keep doing it. And so they just battle now with both sides of their nature, the part that God placed in them that says you need to keep giving, and the part that's carnal that says, I'm gonna stop because they're not grateful for anything that I do.
Yeah, and I definitely know a lot of people that are like that. And even if it's not I'm doing this for the expectation of something in return, it could be I'm doing this for the praise, or I'm doing this for this acknowledgement that, oh, you are such a great friend. Or as Trump, because I mean, again, he's doing whatever he's doing to stay out of jail for praise, but it's not again because I am grateful for your being, for your presence, for the fact that I'm even here by the grace of God. So then let me show my gratitude by being a blessing to others. Um, but I know we're running low on time as well. Hopefully the viewers are commenting.
But one of the viewers thinks you express gratitude by bending the knee and kissing the ring.
Oh, then you've never seen gratitude. I take it then, Mark. No, I'm just
I
kidding.
don't want that kind of gratitude. I don't want it because, I think anything. I had a conversation with another friend of mine this week, and this is a little bit off of the divergent, but you saw the video that they made about Trump Gaza, about building,
The casino.
the about on the Gaza Strip turning into this huge vacation resort. But the content of it really suggested that Donald Trump was our savior, and everybody was celebrating all the great things that he did, and how grateful we were going to be. And they erected this huge golden statue of Donald Trump. And Donald Trump retweeted that. And my thought was, it's like, why would I don't know any Christian in their right mind who would um even jokingly, a friend of mine was saying, "Oh, he's just trolling." I was like, "But you don't even joke about making a man a godlike figure." I said, "If you know that God is a jealous God, you don't even joke by elevating anybody close to his stature, and even if it is for the purpose of trolling." And so I asked the question. I said, "Would you have retweeted it?" Or frankly, would you even retweet the video that's already out there? If somebody made that video about you, exalting you to that level, would you accept that? No, I don't want to be exalted. I don't want people to have so much gratitude toward me where I become a deified figure for them. To me, that all that does is identifies me as a threat, not a threat to God because he has no threats, but it just puts me in a position where I'm now vulnerable for destruction because God will have no other gods before him. I watched one of my former pastors, phenomenal pastor. At the end of the service, he would go out and greet people in the back, and so many people would say, "Oh my God, thank you so much. You are so anointed, and God is really using you and everything." And I watched and I said, stop doing that because you're going to make this person um, vulnerable to being destroyed if you start elevating them to a level of deity by the expression of your profound gratitude. So even while we do express gratitude in different kinds of way, I think we do still need to find out how to temper that and make sure that it's appropriately expressed.
The thin line between idolization and gratitude. And I think, kissing the ring is an idolization. I think, the whole golden calf, those are idolizations. And like you said, you're then putting your salvation, your trust, everything into this one person, and you are setting them up for failure. But nonetheless, you're idolizing them.
Yeah.
And I think that's different than just saying, hey, thank you for doing this for me. Um, and not then putting an expectation that they are now going to lead your life and guide you.
Good. Well, maybe we should stop on a point of agreement. Ladies and gentlemen, we have agreement here.
Well, hopefully you guys have been commenting, and hopefully you've also liked the Facebook Roundtable Consult page. And definitely go like us on YouTube, go like us on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure that you tune in every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can also catch a repeat of this radio on KDay, was it kdaylive.com,
Yes.
as well as Star Radio. So until next time, thank you guys so much and have a blessed week.